The capital and largest city is Dublin, located in the eastern part of the island, whose metropolitan area is home to around a third of the country's 4.6 million inhabitants. The state shares its only land border with Northern Ireland, a part of the United Kingdom. It is otherwise surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean, with the Celtic Sea to the south, St. George's Channel to the southeast and the Irish Sea to the east. It is a unitary, parliamentary republic. The Oireachtas consists of a lower house, Dáil Éireann, an upper house, Seanad Éireann, and an elected president who serves as the largely ceremonial head of state, but with some important powers and duties. The head of government is the Taoiseach, who is elected by the Dáil and appointed by the president, and appoints other government ministers. The Irish Free State was created in 1922 as a result of the Anglo-Irish Treaty. It effectively became a republic, with an elected president, under the Constitution of 1937, in which it was named Ireland. It was officially declared a republic in 1949. Ireland became a member of the United Nations in December 1955. It joined the European Economic Community, predecessor of the European Union, in 1973. The state had no formal relations with Northern Ireland for most of the 20th century. But during the 1980s and 1990s, the British and Irish governments worked with the Northern Ireland parties towards a resolution to the Troubles. Since the signing of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998, the Irish government and Northern Ireland executive have cooperated on a number of policy areas under the North-South Ministerial Council created by the agreement. Ireland ranks among the wealthiest countries in the world in terms of GDP per capita. After joining the EEC, Ireland enacted a series of liberal economic policies that resulted in rapid economic growth. The country achieved considerable prosperity from 1995 to 2007, during which it became known as the Celtic Tiger. This was halted by an unprecedented financial crisis that began in 2008, in conjunction with the concurrent global economic crash. In 2011 and 2013, Ireland was ranked as the 7th most developed country in the world by the United Nations Human Development Index. It also performs well in several metrics of national performance, including freedom of the press, economic freedom and civil liberties. Ireland is a member of the European Union and is a founding member of the Council of Europe and the OECD. The Irish government has followed a policy of neutrality through non-alignment since immediately prior to World War II, and the country is consequently not a member of NATO, although it does participate in Partnership for Peace. Name: the 1922 state, comprising 26 of the 32 counties of Ireland, was styled and known as the Irish Free State. The Constitution of Ireland, adopted in 1937, provides that the name of the state is Éire, or, in the English language, Ireland. Section 2 of the Republic of Ireland Act 1948 states, "It is hereby declared that the description of the state shall be the Republic of Ireland." The 1948 Act does not name the state as Republic of Ireland, because to have done so would have put it in conflict with the Constitution. The government of the United Kingdom used the name Éire, and, from 1949, Republic of Ireland, for the state. It was not until the 1998 Good Friday Agreement that it used the name Ireland, as well as Ireland, Éire, or the Republic of Ireland. The state is also referred to as the Republic, Southern Ireland, or the South. In an Irish Republican context, it is often referred to as the Free State, or the 26 counties. History: Home Rule movement from the Act of Union on 1 January 1801, until 6 December 1922. The island of Ireland was part of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. During the Great Famine, from 1845 to 1849, the island's population of over 8 million fell by 30%. 1 million Irish died of starvation or disease and another 1.5 million emigrated, mostly to the United States. This set the pattern of emigration for the century to come, resulting in a constant population decline up to the 1960s. From 1874, and particularly under Charles Stewart Parnell from 1880, the Irish Parliamentary Party gained prominence. This was firstly through widespread agrarian agitation via the Irish Land League, that won land reforms for tenants in the form of the Irish Land Acts, and secondly through its attempts to achieve Home Rule, via two unsuccessful bills which would have granted Ireland limited national autonomy. These led to grassroots control of national affairs, under the Local Government Act 1898, that had previously been in the hands of landlord-dominated grand juries of the Protestant ascendancy. Home Rule seemed certain when the Parliament Act 1911 abolished the veto of the House of Lords, and John Redmond secured the Third Home Rule Act 1914. However, the Unionist movement had been growing since 1886 among Irish Protestants after the introduction of the first Home Rule Bill, fearing discrimination and loss of economic and social privileges if Irish Catholics achieved real political power. In the late 19th and early 20th century, Unionism was particularly strong in parts of Ulster, where industrialisation was more common in contrast to the more agrarian rest of the island. It was feared that any tariff barriers would heavily affect that region. In addition, the Protestant population was more prominent in Ulster, with a majority in 4 counties. Under the leadership of the Dublin-born Sir Edward Carson of the Irish Unionist Party and the Northerner Sir James Craig of the Ulster Unionist Party, Unionists became strongly militant in order to oppose the coercion of Ulster. After the Home Rule Bill passed Parliament in May 1914, to avoid rebellion with Ulster, the British Prime Minister H. Asquith introduced an amending bill reluctantly conceded to by the Irish Party leadership. This provided for the temporary exclusion of Ulster from the workings of the bill for a trial period of 6 years, with an as yet undecided new set of measures to be introduced for the area to be temporarily excluded. Revolution and Steps to Independence, though it received the royal assent and was placed on the statute books in 1914. The implementation of the Third Home Rule Act was suspended until after the First World War, which diffused the threat of civil war in Ireland, with hope of ensuring the implementation of the Act at the end of the war through Ireland's engagement in the war. Redmond and his Irish National Volunteers supported Britain and its allies. 175,000 men joined Irish regiments of the 10th and 16th Divisions of the new British Army, while Unionists joined the 36th Divisions. The remainder of the Irish Volunteers, who opposed any support of Britain, launched an armed insurrection against British rule in the 1916 Easter Rising, together with the Irish Citizen Army. This commenced on 24 April 1916 with the Declaration of Independence. After a week of heavy fighting, primarily in Dublin, the surviving rebels were forced to surrender their positions. The majority were imprisoned, but 15 of the prisoners were executed as traitors to Britain. This included Patrick Pearse, the man recognised as Ireland's first president and founding father of the modern Irish nation, as well as James Connolly, socialist and founder of the Industrial Workers of the World Union, and both the Irish and Scottish Labour movements, who was general during the Rising and wounded. These events, together with conscription crisis of 1918, had a profound effect on changing public opinion in Ireland. In January 1919, after the December 1918 general election, 73 of Ireland's 106 MPs elected were Sinn Féin members who refused to take their seats in the British House of Commons. Instead, they set up an Irish Parliament called Dáil Éireann. This first Dáil in January 1919 issued a Declaration of Independence and proclaimed an Irish Republic. The declaration was mainly a restatement of the 1916 proclamation, with the additional provision that Ireland was no longer a part of the United Kingdom. The new Irish Republic was recognized internationally only by the Russian Soviet Republic. The Irish Republic's air-reached sent of delegation under Cian Comhail Sean T. O'Kelly to the Paris Peace Conference of 1919, but it was not admitted. After the War of Independence and truce called in July 1921, representatives of the British government and the Irish treaty delegates, led by Arthur Griffith, Robert Barton and Michael Collins, negotiated the Anglo-Irish Treaty in London from the 11th of October to the 6th of December 1921. The Irish delegates set up headquarters at Hans Place in Knightsbridge, and it was here in private discussions that the decision was taken on 5 December to recommend the treaty to Dáil Éireann. The second Dáil Éireann narrowly ratified the treaty. In accordance with the treaty, on 6 December 1922 the entire island of Ireland became a self-governing dominion called the Irish Free State. Under the Constitution of the Irish Free State, the Parliament of Northern Ireland had the option to leave the Irish Free State exactly 1 month later and return to the United Kingdom. During the intervening period, the powers of the Parliament of the Irish Free State and Executive Council of the Irish Free State did not extend to Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland exercised its right under the treaty to leave the new dominion and rejoined the United Kingdom on 8 December 1922. It did so by making an address to the King requesting that the powers of the Parliament and Government of the Irish Free State shall no longer extend to Northern Ireland. The Irish Free State was a constitutional monarchy sharing a monarch with the United Kingdom and other dominions of the British Commonwealth. The country had a Governor-General, a bicameral parliament, a cabinet called the Executive Council, and a Prime Minister called the President of the Executive Council. Irish Civil War. The Irish Civil War was the consequence of the creation of the Irish Free State. Anti-treaty forces, led by Eamon de Valera, objected to the fact that acceptance of the treaty abolished the Irish Republic of 1919 to which they had sworn loyalty, arguing in the face of public support for the settlement that the people have no right to do wrong. They objected most to the fact that the state would remain part of the British Empire and that members of the Free State Parliament would have to swear what the anti-treaty side saw as an oath of fidelity to the British King. Pro-treaty forces, led by Michael Collins, argued that the treaty gave not the ultimate freedom that all nations aspire to and develop, but the freedom to achieve it. At the start of the war, the Irish Republican Army split into 2 opposing camps, a pro-treaty IRA and an anti-treaty IRA. The pro-treaty IRA disbanded and joined the new National Army. However, through the lack of an effective command structure in the anti-treaty IRA, and the defensive tactics throughout the war, Michael Collins and his pro-treaty forces were able to build up an army with many tens of thousands of World War I veterans from the 1922 disbanded Irish regiments of the British Army, capable of overwhelming the anti-treatyists. British supplies of artillery, aircraft, machine guns and ammunition boosted pro-treaty forces, and the threat of a return of Crown forces to the Free State removed any doubts about the necessity of enforcing the treaty. The lack of public support for the anti-treaty forces and the determination of the government to overcome the irregulars contributed significantly to their defeat. 1937 Constitution. Following a national referendum on 29 December 1937, the new Constitution of Ireland came into force. This replaced the Constitution of the Irish Free State and called the state Ireland, or Éire in Irish. Articles 2 and 3 of the Constitution asserted a nominal territorial claim over the whole island. Considering the partition of Ireland under the 1922 Anglo-Irish Treaty illegitimate, the former Irish Free State government had taken steps to formally abolish the office of Governor-General some months before the new constitution came into force. Although the constitution established the office of President of Ireland, the question over whether Ireland was a republic remained open. Diplomats were accredited to the king, but the president exercised the internal functions of a head of state. For instance, the president gave assent to new laws with his own authority, without reference to King George VI. George VI was only an organ that was provided for by statute law. Ireland remained neutral during World War II, a period it described as the emergency. Ireland's technical link with the Commonwealth was terminated with the passage of the Republic of Ireland Act 1948, which came into force on 18 April 1949 and declared that the state was a republic. At the time, a declaration of a republic terminated Commonwealth membership. This rule was changed 10 days after Ireland declared itself a republic with the London Declaration of 28 April 1949. Ireland did not reapply when the rules were altered to permit republics to join. Later, the Crown of Ireland Act was formally repealed in Ireland by the Statute Law Revision Act, 1962. Recent history: Ireland became a member of the United Nations in December 1955, after previously being denied membership because of its neutral stance during the Second World War and not supporting the Allied cause. Interest towards membership of the European Economic Community developed in Ireland during the 1950s, with consideration also given to membership of the European Free Trade Area. As the United Kingdom intended on EEC membership, Ireland formally applied for membership in July 1961 due to the substantial economic linkages with the United Kingdom. However, the founding EEC members remained skeptical regarding Ireland's economic capacity, neutrality, and unattractive protectionist policy. Many Irish economists and politicians realized that economic policy reform was necessary. The prospect of EEC membership became doubtful in 1963 when French President General Charles de Gaulle stated that France opposed Britain's accession, which ceased negotiations with all other candidate countries. However, in 1969 his successor, Georges Pompidou, was not opposed to British and Irish membership. Negotiations began and in 1972 the Treaty of Accession was signed. A referendum held in 1972 confirmed Ireland's entry, and it finally succeeded in joining the EEC in 1973. The economic crisis of the late 1970s was fueled by Fianna Fáil's budget, the abolition of the car tax, excessive borrowing, and global economic instability, including the 1979 oil crisis. There were significant policy changes from 1989 onwards, with economic reform, tax cuts, welfare reform, an increase in competition, and a ban on borrowing to fund current spending. This policy began in 1989 to 1992 by the Fianna Fáil Progressive Democrat government, and continued by the subsequent Fianna Fáil Labour government and Fine Gael Labour Democratic Left government. Ireland became one of the world's fastest-growing economies by the late 1990s in what was known as the Celtic Tiger period, which lasted until the global financial crisis of 2007-08. However, since 2014, Ireland has experienced strong economic growth. In the Northern Ireland question, the British and Irish governments started to seek a peaceful resolution to the violent conflict involving many paramilitaries and the British Army in Northern Ireland, known as the Troubles. A peace settlement for Northern Ireland, known as the Good Friday Agreement, was approved in 1998 in referendums north and south of the border. As part of the peace settlement, the territorial claim to Northern Ireland in Articles 2 and 3 of the Constitution of Ireland was removed by referendum.